Okay, let's move on to problem 39. What we're going to do is use the complex conjugate. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 3 plus I. We have a binomial on top and on bottom in this case, so our factor might be, multiply it out might be quite long. So negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. Negative 7 times I is negative 7I, done with negative 7. Negative 2I times 3 is negative 6I. Negative 2I times I is negative 2I squared. We'll leave that for now and consider the denominator. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times I is 3I. Negative I times 3 is negative 3I. And negative I times I is negative I squared. Negative 2I squared, since I squared is negative 1, we've got negative 2 times negative 1, which is positive 2. Negative I squared is negative times negative 1, which is positive 1. Now we'll combine like terms. Up top I have negative 21 and positive 2. Together that will be negative 19. Taking care of those. Up here I have negative 7I and negative 6I. When I add those together, I will get negative 13I. Done with those. Let's look at the denominator. We have positive 9, positive 1. When I add them together, I will get 10. Positive 3I, negative 3I, they will cancel each other out. They're opposites. It looks like we don't have any thing that is divisible on top and bottom, so this will be our simplified answer. Okay, let's consider some of these problems over here. Looking at number 34, the denominator has an I in it, which is something that we want to get rid of in order for this to be in simplified form. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by I. I can do just I here because there's only one term. It has two factors, 2 and I, but there's no plus sign between them or a minus sign indicating two terms, so this is a single term together. And when I take 2I times I, I'm going to get 2I squared, which is negative 2. So that does get rid of the I on the denominator like I want. I have to, if I'm going to multiply one, part of the fraction by I, the numerator or denominator, I have to do the other as well. This way I'm multiplying by 1, which doesn't change its value. Okay, this is a binomial times I, so I've got to take each term times I. 5 times I is 5I. Negative I times I is negative I squared. Since negative I squared is negative times negative 1, it's going to be positive 1. And then we have plus 5I, and that's the end. If we wanted to move the negative from the denominator, you wouldn't have to, but you can. I would divide the top and bottom by negative 1 in that case. So you'd be left with negative 1 minus 5I all over 2. Those two would be equivalent. This answer is just fine. All right. Let's see if there's... we'll come tackle this one and then worry about the others in a second. So I'm going to do 30 now, multiplying the numerator and denominator by I. So up top we get 5I, on the denominator 15I squared. I squared is negative 1, so 15 times negative 1 is negative 15. So we have 5I over negative 15. 5 divided by 15 is 1/3, so we can simplify here. So we can have I, or 1I, over negative 3 if we want. This is the same, by the way, as negative I over 3, or sometimes we can write it like negative I over 3. So this begs the question, like, why couldn't we just bring the negative from this one and stick it out front up there? And it's because here we're dealing with a binomial on top. In this problem that we just did, this one only has a monomial on the numerator. So moving the negative around is a little bit easier. It doesn't impact any additional terms. Let's see. Maybe we can try this 32 as well. So we'll multiply the numerator and denominator by I over I. We get 100I over 20I squared. I squared equals negative 1. So 20 times negative 1 is negative 20. So we've got 100I over negative 20. 100 divided by negative 20 is negative 5. I'm just going to verify that because, you know, sometimes I make errors. Yeah, it is. So this equals negative 5I. Okay. I don't know if there are any others that you're super anxious to see. Let's try this 35. So we'll multiply the top and bottom by I. The numerator will become 45I minus 10I squared. The denominator, 5I squared. Let's simplify the I squareds. So on the top, negative 10I squared is negative 10 times negative 1. It's going to be positive 10. So you might notice a pattern that the sign is just changing of whatever was in front of it. 5I squared, 5 times negative 1, that's going to be negative 5. Okay, so 10 plus 45I, I'm just rearranging the order, no change in value, all over negative 5. 10 is divisible by negative 5, and 45 is divisible by negative 5. So let's divide both of those. 10 divided by negative 5, that will be negative 2. 45 divided by negative 5, that will be negative 9. And 45I divided by negative 5 will be negative 9I. So there's our final answer on that one. Okay, let's do this 36 while we're at it. Multiply the numerator and denominator by I. We will get negative 24I minus 3I squared all over 6I squared. Negative 3I squared is positive 3, since I squared is negative 1. 6I squared is negative 6, since I squared is negative 1. So now we have 3 minus 24I all over negative 6. Okay. 3 divided by 6 does reduce, but it doesn't make the 6 go away. But that's okay. So let's go ahead and reduce these two. 3/6 is the same as 1/2. Now what did I divide away from this? I divided a 3. So that's what I can do on this part as well. I'm going to take negative 24 divided by 3, and I get negative 8. So this one works. If we wanted to move the negative from the denominator, we could put negative 1 plus 8I all over 2. Either one works. Okay, let's handle this 33 as well, and then we've tackled one part of these. So I over I, we get 17I over 31I squared. 31I squared will become negative 31, so we have 17I over negative 31. We could move the negative up to the numerator if we want, or stick it in front of the whole thing. These two things are equal, so either one that you like is perfectly valid. Since 17 31sts doesn't reduce, we'll just leave it. Okay, I hope you're feeling confident with those sorts of problems. And we'll pick up the next ones in the next video.